Hey, hello friends, and welcome to Retro Portal Studio. And in this video we're going to be talking about shader masks in Flutter. So a shader mask is one of those widgets which is not really talked about much in the community, but is one of those widgets that are most frequently used in my Flutter applications. So to explain to you about shader masks and its use case, we're going to be creating this nice loading animation in Flutter using shader mask and a bit of simple animation. So let's get started. Okay, so right now I'm in a simple Flutter app in which we have a simple text on the screen. So what we want to do is we want to apply a gradient on this text. So this can be easily achieved by using shader mask. This can really be a difficult task if we don't have anything like shader mask, but what we can actually do is we can wrap this text with a shader mask, and what this shader mask requires is a shader callback, which looks something like this. So a shader callback gives you a rectangle. So this basically represents the rectangular box that contains the text that we have here on the screen. What we want to do in this shader callback is we want to create a shader mask and return it from this function. So what we can actually do is we can return a linear gradient which helps us to create a shader mask. So what we can do is we can give it a set of colors. So let me just give it colors dot white 24 and colors dot gray. So what we can do is we can create a shader from this linear gradient, and we can create the shader and give it the rectangle. So what this will do is it will apply this linear gradient to the text only. So if I run the app right now and I open up the emulator, you can see that we have applied the gradient on the text and it looks pretty good. So you can see that by applying the shader mask, we have achieved a relatively difficult task in Flutter with such ease. So we're going to use the same effect to create the loading effect that I showed you earlier. So before moving any further, let me just explain to you what the shader mask is doing in the background. So a shader mask has a property called blend mode, which by default is set to blend mode.modulate, which is like an alpha mat. So let me just explain to you what this all is. So let me just go to Photoshop, and let's say we have a text here which is called Flutter, and what we want to do is we want to create a new layer, and we can take the brush here and fill in the blue color. And what we want to do is we want to apply this blue color only to the text here. So what we can do is we can select the text and go to this layer here which has the blue color and create a mask. So if I go to the mask, you can see that there is the white color on the mask which covers the Flutter text, and the rest of the layer is filled with black color. So basically what this mask is doing is it's applying this layer that is for the brush color to only the selected area which is white in color, and it's removing the effect from all the other black area that is represented in this mask. So basically what this means is that white is the area in which you have to show the effect, and black is the area in which you don't really want to show the effect. Okay, so from the example, we can say that by default, if we don't give any blend modes to the shader mask, it's going to apply the effects, in this case the linear gradient, to only the areas which have white color, and the transparent or the black areas are going to get ignored. So if we remove this text from here, and in place of the text we give it a container, and let's give it a width of double.infinity, which will give it a width of the screen, and if we give it a height of 100 and also give it a color of colors.white, then the set effect is going to be applied on the container to its full width and the set height. So if I run the app right now and we go to the emulator, you can see that the gradient, which is starting from the white color and which goes to the gray color, is being applied on the container with a width of the screen and a height of 100. So using this effect, we can create the loading effect also by adding some animation. So what I want to do right now is I want to create a loading container. So for that, what I will do is I will add a column in place of this container. I'll just cut this container from here and I'll add a column. So this column will contain multiple containers. So let me just add a children property, and in this, the first container is going to be the previous container that we just used, and after this container I want to give it a sized box to give it a height gap. So I'll just add some height and give it a height of 10. So this is going to represent the empty space between the containers, and I want to add another container and I want to keep the width to infinity, and I want to keep the height to approximately 10, and the color is going to be white, and I want to add another sized box. So let me just add a comma, add the sized box, and I want to repeat this container. And for the end container, I want to add a sized box also. And I'll add another container, but in this container, what I will do is I'll change the width to approximately 50. So if I run the code right now, you can see that we have a nice paragraph kind of effect on the screen. So basically, this is the container, and these are two other small containers with white color in the background. So the shader mask effect is being applied on them, and this is the last container that has a width of 50. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to center align this container. So what I will do is I'll just add a cross-axis alignment, and I'll just align the elements to the left hand side. So for the cross-axis alignment, I'll add start, and after this start we can also add a main axis alignment, and for the main axis alignment I'm going to center the contents. And if I run the app again, so you can see that the container is at the bottom, and also I want to change the color of this white to a bit dark color, so I'll just put it white 70. It's kind of visible, but it's not that clear, so what I will do is I'll just add it gray and shade of 100. So I'll save that and run the app again, and you can see that the boxes are visible, and the first container is the one with the width of infinity and a height of 100, and the last container is having the width of 50. So this gives you a paragraph kind of effect. So also what we can do is add some padding. So for that, what I will do is I'll add the padding to whole of the shader mask, or we can add that to the center, but I'll add that to the shader mask, and I'll wrap the shader mask with the padding. And if I run the app again, you can see that we have some nice padding to the contents of the shader mask. Okay, so up till now, what we have done is we have created a container that can be used as a loading symbol while we're getting the data from the internet. So one more thing that we need to do with this container is we want to add some animation to the linear gradient of this shader mask. So what we can do for that is just add some simple animation to this My Home page. And for that, what we need to do is we need to change this My Home page to a stateful widget. So in this stateful widget, what we need to do is we need to create an animation controller, and we're going to call this controller. So other than this controller, what we need is two animation objects. So the animation objects are going to be of type color, and one is named animation 1 and other is named animation 2. So the reason for having these two animation objects is because we want to swap these colors with each other simultaneously. So the animation 1 will change the first color to the second color, and the animation 2 is going to change the second color to the first color. And the animation is going to reverse itself once it completes. So if you don't know what this animation controller and these animation objects do and how to achieve simple animations in Flutter, you can take a look at my animation tutorial in Flutter that I'll link in the description below. Okay, so to initialize the animation controller and the animation objects, we need to do that in the init state function of the stateful widget. So in this init state function, what I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize the controller, and I'm going to initialize with animation controller, and this requires a vsync. So to provide a value to this vsync, what we need to do is we need to add a mixin to the state that is going to be single ticker provider state mixin. And this is quite a mouthful, but we can pass in a value of this to the vsync. So other than the vsync, we also need to provide a duration to the animation controller for which we want to run the animation. So the duration is going to be of seconds, that is the value 2. And other than this controller, what we actually need to do is we need to give the values to this animation 1 and animation 2. So for that, what we can add is animation 1 that is equal to color tween, starting from the color that is gray and ending at the color that is shade 100 of gray. And we need to animate that with the controller. And for the animation 2, we're doing the same thing but with different colors. That is, we're starting with color gray with a shade of 100, and we're going to the color gray, and we're animating that with the same controller to sync up these two transitions. So after initializing the controller, the animation 1 and animation 2, what we actually need to do is we need to change these colors to the animation objects. So what we can do is we can add animation 1 dot value, And for here, what we need to add is animation2.value. So this is actually going to take the values from the animation that is constantly changing through this vsync. So after this animation2, what we actually need to do is we need to start the animation. So that is done by using controller.forward. So after starting the animation, what we need to do is we need to listen to the changes in the animation. So for that, we can add a listener to the controller. So in the listener, what we're doing is we are checking if the animation is complete, then we're reversing the animation, and if the animation is at the starting point, we're starting the animation again. And with each of the listen events, we're setting the state again so that the animation1 value is updated in the views also. So with each set state, the animation1.value is going to update, and same is going to be the case for the animation2 object. So if I start the app right now and I go to the emulator, you can see that the animation is happening, but it is quite slow, and we can pace up the animation by decreasing the time in seconds. For that, what we can do is we can change that to milliseconds, and we can add 1500 to that. And if I run the app again, you can see that the animation is comparatively faster, and you can change the animation according to your own needs. Okay, so I hope you have learned much in this tutorial about the shader mask in Flutter, and I hope you can integrate that into your own applications with ease. So if you find this tutorial helpful, please hit the like button and the subscribe button for more Flutter videos coming your way. See you next time. Peace.